My name is Colin Gunnell, Managing Director of Liquid Friday. We specialise in helping the flexible labour supply chain understand complex areas of evolving legislation and assisting with compliant, straightforward solutions. During the autumn 2017 budget, Government announced a consultation on extending its public sector IR35 rules to the private sector, and this will almost certainly impact how workers are engaged and paid in the future. History has taught us that when government announces a tax consultation, it generally comes to fruition and is more a matter of when, not if. The government is expected to deliver the findings of its consultation at some point in 2018. That could be in time for the autumn budget or even as soon as the spring statement. As these new rules have already been introduced to the public sector, the smart money is on them being implemented in the private sector at some point during 2018 or 2019. IR35 is a really big subject, but I hope to answer the key points within this video. I hope you find it useful. IR35 is essentially a set of rules HMRC applies to single-person limited companies. These single-person limited companies are sometimes referred to as personal service companies or PSCs. These rules intend to identify workers who would be employees if it were not for the fact that they were working through a limited company. This process is often referred to as disguised employment. Think of IR35 as an employment test for tax purposes. If a contract is caught by IR35, a personal service company director should be taxed the same as any other PAYE employee. If not caught by IR35, normal business taxation can be applied. It's important to clarify that IR35 only applies to workers operating through personal service companies. It doesn't apply to umbrella workers, direct employees, anyone on a PAYE payroll, or self-employed sole traders. So whether you're watching this as a recruitment agency, an end client, or a personal service company director, IR35 is something you really will need to consider. Absolutely, 100%. For personal service company directors, IR35 has always been important as it determines how they take income from their company and what taxes their company pays. At some point, it looks increasingly likely that the new IR35 rules will apply to both public and private sectors. This means that every assignment or contract taken by a personal service company will have an IR35 status determined at source, and this will control what taxes are applied. This is on the assumption that they use the same rules in the private sector that they have already deployed in the public sector. IR35 will be relevant for all parties within the contractual chain in one way or another, and it will be essential for personal service company directors, recruitment agencies and end clients to consider its application. IR35 isn't new legislation. In fact, it's been around since 2000, but there is an awful lot of noise about it now. What's being proposed is that the IR35 rules will not be changing. What's potentially changing, based on the government's output and its consultation, is who's applying them. Historically, the individual director of a personal service company carried out the responsibility for determining the IR35 status of their contracts. By signing off corporation tax returns and filing P60s, etc., the individual gave an implied declaration that they had correctly applied IR35 and all the other taxes. Those working in the public sector will know that from April 2017, responsibility of determining IR35 status switched from the personal service company director to the end client they were working for. It's this change of who makes the IR35 determination that the government are consulting on with a view to extending out to the private sector. Once a client determines a contract is caught by IR35, for all intents and purposes, the worker is classified as an employee for the consideration of tax, and their personal service company should be paid deemed salary payments. The party paying the personal service company is known as the fee payer, and may be the recruitment agency, the end client, or another intermediary company. The fee payer is basically the party that's closest to the personal service company in the supply chain. The fee payer will have to process payment to the personal service company net of all relevant tax deductions and remit these to HMRC in exactly the same way as it would for an employee. This process is officially called deemed payment. That payment is being deemed as being earned as an employee for the purposes of tax. If a fee payer deducts incorrect taxes, they process a payment as outside of IR35 when it's really caught by IR35, they become liable for any tax due to HMRC. In such cases, the revenue will pursue the fee payer, not the personal service company. And this makes sense because the personal service company has not been involved in the IR35 determination process. If the end client makes an incorrect determination, the fee payer is still liable under current legislation, although this may change. Ultimately, the buck stops with the fee payer when it comes to what should and what shouldn't be paid to HMRC. How IR35 is determined is probably the biggest and most important part that we'll address in this video. The tests which are used to determine IR35 status are complex, and they've evolved over years and years of case law. They involve both the contractual terms of an assignment and how the assignment is performed in the real world. This real world application is called working practices. The IR35 tests include the following three key areas. Mutuality of obligation. Is the agency or client obliged to give the personal service company work, and is the personal service company obliged to take it, both during and between the assignment? Personal service. Is the worker required to personally carry out the services, or can they send a substitute? In reality, will the client accept the substitute, or will they have the right to reject them? And the last one is control. Is the worker free to perform the work how they see fit, or is it a master-servant relationship? It's important to say here that for a contract to be classified as inside or caught by IR35, the test must indicate an employment relationship in all three areas. Another way to look at it would be if these tests have a positive, i.e. there is a mutuality of obligation, there is personal service, and there is control, then the contract is caught by IR35 and deemed payment should be operated. To support this process, HMRC has built and launched an online tool to determine a contract's IR35 status. This tool is known as CEST, Check Employment Status for Tax. Following a series of questions, the CEST tool determines whether the worker is employed or self-employed for tax purposes. HMRC have stated that their CEST tool is the only decision-making tool they will stand by. If the result is not IR35 caught, then providing all the questions answered within the tool are correct and the working practices match, they will stand by the decision. The counter to this is that if the questions and working practices state a court decision, HMRC will say the contract is caught. HMRC have also stated that the CEST tool is not a compulsory tool. A client does not have to use the tool to make an IR35 assessment. HMRC has also stated there is no formal appeal process. Make of that what you will. I'll refrain from offering a personal opinion on HMRC's CEST tool, however it has come under fire from various parties on its ability and efficiency. Mutuality of obligation exists when an agency or client is obliged to offer work to an individual under the terms of a contract, and they are obliged to take it. It is seen as an indicator of employment because there is a mutual obligation to work with each other, like the terms of an employment contract. Take, for example, my employment with Liquid Friday. Under my contract, the company is obliged to pay me for a certain number of hours I work, even if we're not busy, and I'm obliged to turn up each day and carry out what tasks are needed. However, if a client is not obliged to provide work and the worker is not obliged to take it, or where only one of the parties has an obligation, it is more likely that mutuality of obligation will not exist. For example, can the worker be sent home without pay if they are not needed? If they start an assignment, are they obliged to finish it in order to get paid? This centres around whether personal service by the worker is required, or can a substitute be sent to carry out the work. Consider a situation whereby you hire a small building business to fit a kitchen for you. You're not concerned who the actual person doing the work is, you just want your kitchen fitted. Or you could say you're just interested in getting the project finished, regardless of who does it. The building business owner could start the work, then a few days into the project send someone else to finish it, as they weren't available. They could be sick or working on a different project. The building business could send anyone who had the relevant ability and skill set to do the work, and you could not unreasonably say you didn't want that particular guy or girl to work on your kitchen. The critical point here is the personal service of the business owner was not required to deliver the work. A really key element here is that the building business was in control of providing and paying the substitute, as well as taking care of the costs involved in the provision of said substitute, including quality checking and insurance. You just pay the building business owner for the kitchen, as originally agreed. It's my belief that personal service, both contractually and within working practices, is one of the most important factors in determining IR35 status and cannot be overlooked. Now the question here is the degree of control the client has over what, how, when and where the worker completes the work. Are they free to perform the task how they see fit, or is there a strict overriding process that must be followed? In case law, this is known as a master-servant relationship, for obvious reasons. For example, an IT consultant is tasked by a client to design and build them a new website. The client is not interested in controlling how the website is built, as they typically wouldn't have the skill set to do so even if they wanted to. The consultant carries out the work in line with the specification from the client and a delivery date. In this example, the client doesn't control how the work is performed. But if we were to look at a different example, a labourer who goes on site and is given a wheelbarrow and is instructed to move a pile of bricks from one place to another, they are clearly being instructed and controlled in the performance of that task. HMRC have no formal appeal process for IR35 challenges. A quick online search will deliver results of multiple challenges and appeals being launched against both clients and HMRC. However, to my knowledge, none have been upheld. That being said, we have heard of clients reassessing the facts of IR35 determinations when finding out they're about to lose a whole team due to an original blanket determination. A really important fact to confirm is that it's the assignment or contract that has an IR35 status. It's not the individual. This is likely to mean the existence of both IR35 court and not court contracts within the supply chain, with different tax treatments and pay methods for each. The flexible workforce has experienced rapid and far-reaching change in recent years, and there is surely more to come. IR35 may be an awkward and unpalatable reality, but it's just that, a reality. Without a comprehensive shake-up of the entire UK tax system, I believe IR35 is here to stay, and that the extension of the new rules to the private sector is likely to be a matter of when, not if. Now more than ever, the industry needs service providers who are part of the solution, not part of the problem. At Liquid Friday, we have considerable experience in helping clients transition through IR35. As and when the reforms are rolled out across to the private sector, we will continue to be on hand to offer advice, guidance, practical solutions for all of our clients, be that freelancers, contractors, agencies and end clients alike. We are already supporting multiple agencies to meet the challenges of IR35 with fee payer solutions, FCSA accredited umbrella services, outsourced IR35 consultations and model restructuring advice. If you would like to speak to myself or any of the team about how we can potentially support you, please don't hesitate to get in touch.